Do you feel the nervousness in the air? Okay, I can feel the tension. Well, let me ease the tension and let me start by saying this statement. You can go to the next one for me, please, if you don't mind. Okay, I'm giving you guys a second there at the back. Are you okay? There we go. The church becomes toxic when leaders sell and people consume. I'm going to read it one more time. The church becomes toxic when leaders sell and people consume. And so we're going to start this conversation from this platform, and let me express to you where the frustration comes from. I was just speaking to Leandra just before we start, and this is maybe something that I struggled with in my personal life. I was raised in church since forever, seen the good parts, the bad parts, the behind scene and everything like that. And if there was one thing that drew caution to me in the church, was the power that was vested into the individual that stood up here. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that it's ungodly. I'm not saying it's unnatural. I said that it can become a place where it becomes dangerous depending on the leader. And so, as I was raised in church, I saw many leaders that would use certain things in order to create environments. Can I say it as it is? Manipulation. Let me just say it as it is. Okay, you guys who know me by now, so I'm just going to say it as it is. And I got really frustrated. You guys know what I'm talking about. Those pastors that claim God is moving, but they're pushing the people over. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? You can literally see how they pushing people over. I'm talking about people that play on the emotions of others. They focus on their fears and their desperateness, and what they do is they take their position and they use it to generate support. Well, politicians do that all the time in any case. But for me, that was something that was difficult for me to handle, because if I was going to serve God, I wanted to be God. I did not want to serve a person. You will hear me say the sentence so many times already. We've been doing this too long to play a church game. And I've been in a stage in my life for a long time. I'm not talking about perfection. I'm talking about either we do it the legit way or we don't do it at all, because what's the point? What's the point if it's not authentic? What's the point if it's not real worship? What's the point if it's only because of cultural values that we gather? What's the point? And so it becomes toxic in the sense when you have leaders standing on a pulpit and they're trying to sell you something. And it also becomes toxic when the community begins to consume what is being sold. See, leaders can drift. You can go to the next one for me if you don't mind, please. Leaders can drift into selling because of two main things. It's usually because of greed or because of survival, which is shaped by the level of support. So I'm not here to criticize, I'm here to explain. You see, when I don't have enough money, okay, not me specifically, I'm talking about the position. When a church leader does not have enough money in order to feed his family, I've seen that part of church as well. Where they don't have enough money to feed their family, you jump into survival mode. And suddenly it's not God leading you anymore, but it's desperation leading you. Because you don't have enough money to pay your children's school fees. And then we slowly can drift into a dangerous place. But then there's the other side of the coin as well, where you get people that lean into this and they become overly greedy. And you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Because you pick it up. You feel it. It's literally becomes tangible. And that's where people begin to ask questions and they begin to feel a little bit confused. But I want to just explain this, that the only solution in order to bypass this, and this is a conversation for all of us, not just me, is to come to a place where we realize that the church has been designed as a place of stewards and not salesmen. I know I'm starting the conversation off by holding me accountable first, but I want to hold the congregation accountable as well. There's no point in selling your faith to someone if you're not willing to steward that person. You see, we become very righteous in giving advice. We become very self-righteous in telling them, but they should attend church, they should pray, they should do this. But in reality, when you do not have the heart to steward and shape and coach and mold them, you are just selling something. You guys are very quiet because you feel like I need to pray for a couple of you this morning. And I want to hold us both accountable in this conversation, because the authentic church was a family. The authentic church, that's why we had, I'm going to say his name, I hope he doesn't mind, Yanni Tiart. He was my Sunday school teacher. He's almost 80, I don't know, he's old. I think he helped Noah somewhere, but anyways, he comes and visits me every now and then he brags how many squats he can do in my office, okay? He's phenomenal. And he came to our church one day, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, and he just walked out the church. He was frustrated. He says, since when did we change brothers and sisters into ladies and gentlemen in church? And I was laughing, and I was just rubbing that off as, just an old guy saying something. But he comes down to this point about, this is not a ladies and gentlemen, okay? This is a brother and sister. This is a mother and father. This is a son and a daughter conversation. Because that is what is authentic. And so we need to push through to a place where our gathering is a gathering of stewards, not a gathering of someone selling something and people consuming something. So this conversation that we're having is not just about giving. It's this idea about belonging. About belonging. I'm not talking about someone giving a donation. I'm talking about showing up for the family braai. I'm talking about showing up for the family Christmas dinner. And when the food is done, I stand up sometimes, now and then, to help wash the dishes. I stand up to go get the vacuum cleaner and help. And I have no issue with that at all. But I'm just trying to explain to you the concept of belonging. And without us knowing that, we've become salesmen and consumers, and both parties become guilty. But the more we do that, the further we drift away from what the church has been called to do. So I want to explain to you the posture of a salesman. And I don't really need to explain this to you, because we all have to go buy a kettle some more other time, okay? We all have to go buy a new vacuum cleaner somewhere, or whatever you want to buy. And I want you to pick up on the salesman skill set, okay? By the way, I'm not bashing a salesman, okay? Don't get me wrong. I'm not insulting someone that sells something. I'm insulting someone that's selling a faith, okay? If you guys are, I hope you pick up on the difference that I'm trying to. So please keep the spiritual agenda of what I'm sharing with you. The first thing that I want to explain to you about the posture of a salesman is they are driven by sensation. They like hype, okay? There was just not long ago, there was a very specific cool drink that came out from a very specific influencer, and it was sold for extremely expensive. Okay, I'm not going to name any names, but it took the world by storm, all over the world, okay? And even in our house, we had to have it because someone famous said it's good. Well, it wasn't so good, to be honest, but in any case, the whole idea is around the sensation that's being built. It feels like everyone needs to have something. And that is built around the concept of sensation. It happens to you, it happens to me, okay? The second thing is for salesmen is they are also focused on survival, because they need to sell something to you because their salary depends on that. And I'm not saying that's necessarily bad, okay? But when it comes to spiritual things, it becomes dangerous when I'm trying to sell something to you out of desperation, because God cannot be in the sale when He's in it for the family. And it becomes difficult because the words that are being used is Christian. The conversations that's being had is Christian. The community is Christian, but the agenda is not revealed until later. And then it's not authentic. Then it's a business transaction. Another thing that salespeople use is pressure, urgency, fear, and entertainment. I was laughing. So, pastors tend to judge other pastors quite a lot. And so sometimes, I think probably one of the funniest things that I've ever heard was something that goes along the way, that pastor's sermon was so morbid. I don't know how to say that in English. It was so downcast that you could have Afpop standing in the front and sell them funeral policies. That's how good the sermon was to draw people down, And I mean, that's in a little bit of a funny nature, and I'm not criticizing anyone specifically, but I want to explain to you the idea on how people and within the faith community can be played on emotionally as well. But now in comparison, I want to show you the posture of a steward. You see, a steward has got one drive, and the drive is trust. That's the heartbeat of a steward. When it comes to someone, the essence of that relationship comes to a place that I trust you with this. And the feeling is mutual back as well, This can be staff members, this can be family members, this can be a neighbor. You do not leave your keys by that specific neighbor when you go on holiday because you're selling them something. No. You're giving them something because there's this expectancy of good stewardship between you. I'm taking that as an example. The second thing that they're focused on, and just want to mention this, they're focused on faithfulness. But this is expensive because faithfulness can sometimes come at the cost of your survival. Because out of stewardness, I'm not trying just to survive. A steward commits irrespective of surviving or not. If you struggle to understand this, it makes sense when it comes to your kids that you are a steward of. Is that you would do yourself in because you are faithful to your relationship to your children. That is, you're not selling them something. You're not driven by just survival instincts for yourself. No, you are committing to a relationship out of stewardship, with this idea that I'm going to be faithful to my children. That's the concept. And the last thing is, and this is also tough, stewards use love and discipline. And that sucks. Man, if you have been in a real, authentic relationship where someone holds you really accountable, that's not nice. It's not entertaining. It's not fun. It doesn't feel like love. Sometimes they convince you it's love and you don't believe them for the first 3 months, okay? Only afterwards when you look back, they were telling the truth. And that is the building blocks when it comes to church. And now again, I want to ask ourselves this question. Are we salesmen of the faith? Or are we stewards of the faith? You see, when we forget our calling as the church, we try to sell something which we are meant to steward. Or I can rephrase that. We consume something which we are, you can stay on this one, it's fine. We consume something which we are meant to steward. It's not the concept about consuming. It's not the concept of contributing, and that is true. I do believe in that idea. But it comes down to this question. Are you a steward of the faith? Are you a steward of Baruch Church? The reason why I throw our name in there is because many of you belong here. This is the church gathering. Wherever you go to church. But that's not what we see in today's time. We see church hopping. We see consumerism. We see this individual idea of ourselves. But that concept of becoming a family and becoming stewards of one another is what lacks. And so we can have full churches, but empty hearts. We can have large churches, but we can have no influence because we are individualized and we separate ourselves from the church and we treat it as a building. You see, Christianity is not a theater to spectate. And I know we we understand this, but in our time it becomes difficult because our entertainment platforms look exactly the same way what this looks like. And I'm not talking about just visually, but it adds into that. When we go watch a sports game, when you go watch your kids perform in a show, when you go watch theater, when you go watch a movie, things are quite similar. But what happens is we draw the aspects of those things into the church life. And so we hold ourselves unaccountable and distance ourselves because the way I'm showing up to church is the same way I go watch a play, the same way I'll go watch a movie, the same way I'll go watch entertainment. It's something I go to and it's something I leave. And so you find people leaving the popcorn stuff just like that because they consumed and it's not my job. When you become part of a church, you become the steward of that church. And so you can't leave your paper lying there. Why? Because you are not consuming, you are part of the family. And when I leave the mess over there, someone that matters to me needs to clean up my mess. I'm using this as a symbol, but I hope you guys, I'm drawing this through from a spiritual perspective as well. You see, an unhealthy statement is the following. The congregation becomes the crowd and the preachers become the actors. And this becomes dangerous. And we see this all over the place. That's why you've been coming to church, but God feels far away. You've been coming to church and you can't find purpose because you're not helping someone. You've been coming to church and you can't get breakthrough in your life because you handle God as someone that wants to fix something in your life. And I'm going to get stuck with this because my mom said it. But God wants to fix you, not just the situation. But we don't want God to change us. We want God to fix the occasion. But that's not how God works. God comes to the inside of our hearts. And he changes that core issue of ourselves. And that's not comfortable, and it's not easy, and it's not nice, and it's not convenient. But the core essence is that in the long term, that is what changes us. If we allow God to change the inside. Because then a lot of things becomes resolved in our lives. So, let's jump into this. How do we find this nice balance between this idea of godly generosity, okay, from a godly perspective? And when I'm speaking about giving, it can include finances, it can include time. But when I talk about godly generosity, I'm referring to becoming part and belonging. I'm talking about giving of yourself to a family at the end of the day. There's this fantastic book, and I'm going to lean from this, and I'm going to quote from this. And I want to encourage you, this is a fantastic book for personal finances as well, okay? It's the book called The Legend of the Monk and the Merchant, 12 Keys to Successful Living. And it's not that get rich quick type of things. It's really about personal discipline and conversations about that. But I'm going to quote a section from the book. It's not of the author. It's someone, his name is Dave Ramsey. My wife and I, we promote this individual wherever we can when it comes to personal godly finance. It changed our lives completely. And so please, Dave Ramsey, go check him out. The 7 Baby Steps. It's phenomenal. Any case, he writes the foreword in this book, and I want you to read this with me. And among Christians in North America today, obviously in the context of an Western idea, but because we are so westernized in our society, I mean, we can just assume this true for us as well. I've noticed a tendency to err in one of two extremes when it comes to the believer's success in business. The first error is that wealth is evil. And if I work hard and as a result build some personal wealth, then I am somehow evil. We tend to see this inside the church as well. You can go to the next one for me, please. Thank you. It doesn't matter how I built that wealth. It just doesn't matter what I choose to do with that wealth. All that matters is that financial success in business or at home is morally wrong. He's not saying it's wrong. He's saying that's the misconception concerning finances. The second one is the most potent one. The second error is that wealth is somehow an indicator of God's blessing or favor. And the church leans into that one so much. where we make people feel guilty because they don't have money in the bank. We insult people. We insult their faith. We insult their generosity. We insult their heart. We insult their circumstances because they are not wealthy. For some reason, we link wealth up with godly blessing. And don't get me wrong, God can bless you, ladies and gentlemen. But money works with principles the same way weight works with principles. And so now it comes to a place, and I want to share this with you, just from my perspective. Wealth is not the issue. It's us as people that becomes the issue. Many times it's even the church that becomes the issue. Again, remember, when a pastor preaches from greed, or when he preaches from survival aspects, it's going to become toxic. But when we treat wealth from the principle perspective, it can be a phenomenal tool to change your life around. You can take care of your kids. You can send them to fantastic educational institutes. You can have enough food on the table. You can bless people around you. It can be a phenomenal tool. But we find so many places that uses this as a guilt trip for people to make them feel bad in order to get them to give more. Dave Ramsey says the following. He says, we're not called to separate our spiritual life from our work life. And we're not called to divide our Sunday morning worship from our Monday morning staff meetings. Listen to this next. I know this is not the Bible, okay, but it's a principle that I want to share with you, is that God is in both and He blesses both. And I want you to draw this through to your life. You do not show up to church today and tomorrow you a police officer or a manager at a business. No. You are the same person today, and tomorrow when you walk into work, you are the same person tomorrow as well. God is in both aspects. You can worship God and put Him first, and you can work hard and generate income and make a success out of your financial situation. That is okay. It is okay, but it's determined by the principles which we apply. And so this book is based on this idea that it's the same ministry, but there's different roles and different responsibilities. And it looks something like this. The monk, he is in full-time ministry. And us pastors, we're going to do everything in our ability to get you to show up to church, to worship, to put God first. Because the way we are designed is that we cannot skip church. We cannot turn our back on what this means, because to us, this is the most important thing, and that's fine. That's fine. But then you have the merchant who's in the full-time marketplace, and guess what? For them, the marketplace is the most important part, because that's where the income is generated. That's where the resources is accumulated. That is what they love, and they struggle to see how pastors can pray the whole day. They struggle to see, you want to be at this place every single day. How do you do that? And so what happens is, instead of becoming a team, we become enemies of one another. And the monk says the merchant is bad. And the merchant says the monk is unwise, because you can't just lean into prayer the whole time. You need to do something there. But the key to this is that both aspects, it's not one or the other. Both are holy. It's not wrong to build a fantastic business. It's not wrong to take care of your family. It's not wrong to save. It's not wrong to apply healthy principles. On the other side, it's not wrong to commit your heart to God. It's not wrong to commit you to His service. It's not one or the other. The idea is that these two need to function together, and guess what? That is what church is called. You have full-time ministers and part-time ministers. You have full-time workers and you have part-time workers. But now we keep on pointing finger and playing blame games the whole time. Not one or the other, ladies and gentlemen. It's about both functions working effectively together. Oh, that's actually my next point. Yes, they are meant to work together. So how do we get healthy in 2026? You can go to the next one quickly for me, please. I want to remind you quickly, when it comes to health, I want to give us 2 warning elements. Leaders contribute to pressure in a church gathering when we lead from fear or from greed. And the congregation contributes to pressure when they consume without committing. And so I know this becomes personal and sensitive, but I'm holding us both accountable to this. Because if Baruch Church cannot function healthy when the congregation is consuming and not committing to become stewards of what's taking place. Baruch Church cannot be healthy this year if I'm preaching out of fear, if I'm preaching out of greed, if I'm preaching out of ego. It cannot work because God cannot bless that. But if we want to be healthy in this year, it's going to take both parties together to take hands and build from each other's strengths and build something together, because God blesses that unity. But it's not one or the other. So, the 3 points that I want to leave with you today, as we're going to conclude, is this. You need to put your hand to it. You need to take responsibility. You need to take responsibility. Sorry, I've got a lot of things to say, but I'm just disciplining myself not to be too honest today, okay? So I heard someone said, he says, people are so scared that they're going to lose their jobs to AI. They are so fearful, but they can't show up to their work on time. They can't respond to the email timely. You're not supposed to be scared of AI. You're supposed to be scared of your personal discipline, because AI cannot replace someone that's passionate and committed and showing up. You see, that's why I need to just calm down, because we are so scared of so many things. But the thing that we need to change, we refuse to change, and that is us. So I want you to take personal responsibility. Don't become a salesman of Baruch Church. Don't become a salesman of the faith. I want you to take ownership and become a steward of where you have been positioned. Take personal responsibility. Now, this is going to be, you guys don't have to applaud for this one, but it's going to be mind-blowing, okay? Make a plan. I have a lot of things to say about this, okay? Most people, not everyone, most people that my wife and I have been speaking to personally, on a personal level, and that's not a big world, it's quite a small world, okay? They do not have an income problem. They have a discipline problem. Okay, I'm going to share something personal with you guys, and I hope this gives you some freedom. My wife and I, we stay with, I've got 3 kids, okay? We stay in a 2-bedroom apartment, and we do not have a living room. Our double bed is in the living room, okay? We don't have 2 bedrooms and a living room. We've got 2 bedrooms, and we sleep in the living room. That's our room, okay? So, just want to explain something to you. No, it's not that some things are going bad with me. No, not at all. It's because that is what I can afford comfortably without worrying about sleepless nights. On the contrary, I can lose my job and still pay off my home account for the next 3 months without worrying, without sleepless nights. I'm not saying that's how you should live. I'm not saying I'm fantastic. We meet people that rent large houses for 3 times the amount of my apartment. They can't make ends meet, but they do not think that they are staying in a too expensive area. They do not think about the new purchase of the new car, that's 700,000 rand that they just put, because they don't understand. It's because we need these things, and now we can't make things out financially. It's not an income problem, because if your rent was half of what it was supposed to be and you drove an affordable vehicle, you would be wealthy. Sorry that I'm just getting, because this is something that's personal for me. I know I get a little bit verbal about this. But here's the problem. Now people come to me and say, but I can't be a blessing. I need help. And in many occasions that is true. But man, we are so blessed in our time. We are so privileged. We have so many beautiful things that we enjoy. Is it possible that we have become greedy? Is it possible that we have become selfish? And by the way, this is a very select conversation because it's not true for everyone, okay? Sometimes your income is not enough. But the people who come to us personally, it's not an income problem. It's an expenditure problem that they've got. It starts with planning. It starts with a budget. You cannot make a plan if you do not know what is going where. It starts with simple maths. You need two skills. You need to know how to add, and you need to know how to subtract. And that's it. And your finances will look different to you when you start writing down all those Simba chippies. Let me just pause over here, and I know I'm lingering on this. Please, before people point finger and judge me, I'm not speaking this from a platform of rudeness or insulting people. I'm telling you what helped us and changed our life around completely. Adding and subtracting. No jokes. It changed our life. I'm not going to linger on this, but that's a preach for another thing. The third thing that I want you to do, I want you to run from debt. I'm not kidding on this one. I am not, we don't have this. The older people, they've got this fantastic mentality. When they couldn't afford something, they didn't buy it. The modern mentality about money is this. Can I afford the debt of that item? I want you to listen. Can I afford the debt of that item? That is not affording the item. Now what happens is we're asking about debt. And when you look at the numbers and you look at the interest rate that you pay, ladies and gentlemen, when you look at tax, when you look at SARS, when you look at everything, you got nothing left because you're giving all your money away, and you have to pay tax. I'm not saying you mustn't give tax. I'm just trying to say when you calculate everything that you have to give and you calculate the tax, the interest and the debt, it becomes ridiculous. The amount of money that you are giving away. Simply because you have to have that cup of coffee every single day at that specific shop. You can't afford it, but you can afford the debt of it. And we become into the illusion that we are fine. And we make a lot of expenses. Now, you know what happens is, it's robbing you from the occasion and the blessing of being generous to people around you. You are not lying when you tell me you can't give a piece of bread to that person because you don't have. I'm not saying you are lying, but when you don't start with a budget and when you overconsume into debt, I believe you can't afford to live because the debt is overwhelming. According to Dave Ramsey, the single most important point of why people get divorced, apparently, is because of money problems. The single most important point. And the only way to resolve that is beginning with a budget, running away from debt. And the fourth thing that I want to share with you is, I want you to save and I want you to be generous. I want you to be generous to people around you. Remember, we become a steward. I'm not selling something to you, and you are not selling something to someone else to gain something. We become stewards of one another, where we are meant to take care of one another. I'm not saying you take your savings and you give your savings to someone else that has not been budgeting the money and I'm not saying you take what you've been building up. What I'm trying to say to you is that you live in such a disciplined and well-structured manner that you are able to have more than enough, so that when someone next to you is in need, you can be genuinely generous. And generosity can be as simple as this. When someone struggles, you buy them a book on finances. Yeah, you see, nobody likes that, right? Come on. I know you want a piece of bread, but come on. I need you to learn something in the process. I need you to, And that can be generosity as well. So I'm not saying take millions and throw it out. I'm talking about I have more than enough. I have more than enough. You know what? I can sponsor you something that will change your life. I can pick you up to come to church. I've got extra diesel in the car. I can do something. I can buy you a Bible because you need something. Do you hear what I'm trying to say? You have enough to be generous because you are living a disciplined life. We are not selling something. We are taking ownership of one another. We are building into one another. We are helping one another. Because the idea is it's not just about showing up, but it's about belonging. It's about belonging. And I need it for you so that your things can go well. Because when it goes well with you, it means it's going well with the church. When you are disciplined, it means the church is disciplined. When your house is in order, it means the church's house is in order. When you have enough, it means you are capable of being that blessing which this gathering is meant to be. It's more than giving. It's more than selling. It's about belonging. But you need to understand you can't sell family. You belong to it. Because nobody wants to buy your family in any case, okay? You belong to it. There's responsibility. So I'm going to conclude. I'm going to ask you one question today. Yeah. I'm going to ask you one question today. What can I do today to make faith feel like home? What can we do to make this a safe haven where we can help others? What can we do personally? What can I do? What can you do? What do you have in your hands to do something with that so that it can change the life of someone else? It's about drawing into one another and not selling something and then going home, but belonging. I want to conclude with this verse. Proverbs 16 verse 3 says, commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established. You can put on the slide for me if you don't mind, please. So it comes down to the question, are we going to be a church this year that's going to sell things? Or are we going to be a church that's going to steward one another and become an authentic place of worship where we build into each other, where we hold each other accountable, and where we cheer one another on for the successes. Instead of saying, they're probably doing something wrong, we cheer, obviously, I hope you're not doing something wrong when things are going well, but we cheer you on. Your success is our success. Your defeat becomes our defeat. We become a family where we take hands. We worship God authentically, and we take care of one another. Maybe things are going well, but ladies and gentlemen, we have been designed for community. We have been designed for community. There are days when I don't feel well, where I have people around me that holds my hand up. And then I get the applause, I get the thank you, but there were people around me that stood strong while I couldn't stand strong. And then when other people are a little bit weak, then it's my turn to jump in and help and pray and encourage and do some work and put in some effort. Why? Because that is how we've been designed to do. Don't you want to belong this year? Don't you want to change someone's life? Don't you want it to be authentic? Don't you want to join and be part of the family? Let's pray. Father, thank you for your word. Always carries power and authority, Lord. So, Lord, as it comes to our materialistic things, we have pressures and challenges, Lord. Sometimes we struggle with health. Sometimes we struggle with money. Sometimes our work becomes too much, Lord. But we know that you've designed this family to be there for one another. So, Lord, my prayer is that you will help us as we pursue this authentic place before you, so that when we sing, it really is worship. When we pray, it becomes powerful. When we speak to our brother out of love and out of discipline, it's because of relationship and not because we are selling something, Lord. Father, my desire is that we would draw closer to one another, that Baruch Church really becomes a home where we exemplify this idea of the church which you gave birth to in the New Testament, Lord. so that we can encourage one another, edify one another, Lord, so that our worship can be complete before your throne. We pray that in Jesus' wonderful name, and together we say, Amen. Thank you.